Shalom, shalom. I'd like to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, HaKadosh, and double honors unto the apostles for pushing the truth 100% sincerity. And shalom to the few sisters and brothers that may be tuning in. So I want to read this passage here in Luke 14 and 16, I think to about 26-ish, but it dives into, excuses and lack of faith, and it relates to a lot of Israelites and so-called Israelites, the 2/3 and the 1/3 as well. It kind of highlights both sides. I'm just going to dive right into it here. Luke 14 and starting at 16. Then he said unto him, says Yahushua replied with this story, a man prepared a great feast and sent out many invitations. I'll dive back into the King James Version, but it's just, the highlight there that is a story that Yahushua is saying, and sent his servant at supper time to say to them that were bidden, come, for all things are ready now. And that's likened to, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushua, calling the Israelites or certain brothers or Israelites to the truth here, right? And they all with one consent begin to make excuse. So they all begin to make excuses, right? The first said unto him, I bought a piece of ground and I must needs to go and see it. I pray thee have me excuse, right? Oh, I just bought some land. I need to go, tend to my land, right? Always making different excuses. And I have some verses here on my other phone, but Matthew 22:1 says, many are called, few are chosen, right? So that's exactly what's happening here. Many are called, but there's not all of them are chosen. A lot of them come with excuses, right? Invited them as guests, invited them to just call them to the truth, and they come up with excuses. Brothers say, "Oh, my woman doesn't like it. What about my kids don't like it. Whatever. Not, I can't eat pork. All that foolishness, right?" And another said, "I have bought 5 yoke of oxen and go to prove them. I pray thee have me excuse." Right, and he just wants to go try out his oxen. They're not even just foolish excuses, right? And another said, I have married a wife and therefore I cannot come, right? Just like I said, my woman doesn't like it. I can't come. I gotta attend to my wife. So that the servant came and showed his lord these sayings, and the master of the house being angry, said to his servant, go out quickly in the streets and lanes of the city and bring in hither the poor and the maimed and the halt and the blind, right? So this goes into who tends to be called into the truth. It's Israelites in the lower state, because you have to be humble. You can't be high-minded and trying to push this truth, or you're not going to be called into this being proud, because the proud people don't listen, right? They go of their own accord, right? So Proverbs 3:34 says, surely he scorns the scornful, but gives grace to the lowly, right? So it explains exactly why he made this shift here in the story to the lower state people, because he knows that they're not gonna be so proud, right? That they're not proud-minded, right? And the servant said, Lord, it is done, and thou hast commanded, and yet there is room. And the Lord said unto the servant, go out into the highways and hedges and compel them to come in, that my house may be filled. And that's what the prophets are doing today. They go into the highways and byways, and they're pushing this truth in 100% sincerity, right? But nowadays, we don't really expect everyone to come into the truth. If they come in, if their spirit aligns, then hey, that's beautiful. But if they don't, they're going to be like the 2/3, like the first people that had all those excuses. It's like, oh yeah, I thought this was something else. All right, I wanted to be part of a black brotherhood. Foolishness, right? But if they don't come in, we're not, they don't care. And verse 24, for I say unto you that none of those men which were bidden shall taste of my supper. So man, any of the ones the people that make excuses, they're not going to be beamed up, man. They're going to actually suffer. They're going to be stubble in the end times. When Yahweh Shemashai comes back, they're going to be stubble. They're going to have to go through the pains without, and during Jacob's trouble, they're going to have to go through that without any guidance whatsoever, because they have no faith. All they have is their carnal things that they latched onto, right? James 4:6 says, Yahweh resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. And that's exactly what he did, right? So the proud, they had excuses from, self-reliance and lack of faith, right? They only had faith in themselves. And in his land, in his oxen, these people have faith in the world. They're like, oh, I have my gun, I'm going to be fine. I'll fight the government myself. All this foolishness that they say. But in end times, man, they're going to have zero guidance. Verse 25, and there went great multitudes with him, and he turned and said unto them, if any man come to me and hate not his father and mother and wife and children and brethren and his sister, yea, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. So essentially, you can't come into this truth with worldly, holding on to worldly things. Right? You have to love you. It's the order that's in the scriptures as well. Yeah, Yahweh Bahashim Yoshai comes first. You can't love everything else above them, right? And it doesn't mean that you just don't care for your family, right? But you put him above your family, put Yahweh Shemashai above your family. Because if you truly care about your family, you need, man, they may be saved through you. And to have that guidance during Jacob's trouble, that's going to be through you. But if you put them first and then, you go into dive into carnality, when Jacob's trouble hits, you're all going to be doomed, right? And whosoever doth not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. That's walking through that fire, right? You have to bear your cross, because you have to carry your own cross, carry your struggles, the things that kind of weigh you down, and you have to overcome those things to, through the will of Yahweh Shem Shai to grow in the spirit. You have to bear your cross. I'm curious what if I dive into the word cross here, if it has anything interesting. Well-known instrument of most cruel and ignominious punishment, borrowed by the Greeks and Romans from the Phoenicians, affixed among the Romans. Crucifixion with Yahushai, upright stake. Yeah, man. So it's it's a form of, it's you going through trials and tribulations, essentially, like I mentioned there, right? And Isaiah 55:6, it says, seek Yahweh while he may be found, let the wicked forsake his way, and he will abundantly pardon, right? So that's again putting your worldly possessions and carnality behind you and diving into this truth, right? Following where Yahweh leads you, right? So putting him first instead of, saying you have all these excuses, right? He invites you to the truth, and you're like, I got this I got to do. I got to go tend to my land here, right? Foolishness. Verse 28, for which of you intend to build a tower, sitteth not down first and counteth the cost, whether he have sufficient to finish it. Right? So just dive into the truth and grow, right? Carry your cross and grow. You got to walk through your trials and tribulations, and you're going to get stronger in the spirit through that, and your faith is going to build that way as well. All right, so again, you have to forsake your way, and he will abundantly pardon you. All right, there's not going to be another opportunity. He's going to call you once. Well, there likely isn't going to be another opportunity, especially nowadays as we're getting closer and closer to the end times. So you have to, bear your cross and walk into this truth. But yeah, that is it. Just highlighting the excuses and lack of faith a lot of, the 2/3 have. And even some of the 1/3, when they're chosen, they fall out because of that, right? And on that note, I'm going to close up. And all praises to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim Kakadash. And again, double honors to the apostles and all the prophets of Great Millstone for pushing this truth in 100% sincerity. And shalom to the brothers and few sisters that may be tuning in.